Hello party people and welcome back to my channel. My name is Shannon and it is time. We have reached that point where we need to talk about this behemoth of a game that is Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So over the past few weeks, I have posted videos on the game's world events and kind of just the general feel of the game. But today we're gonna do a little bit more talking about the game and what works, what doesn't, what's kind of meh, and what's really just frustrating. So sit back and let's get into this game. If you like today's video, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. If you want more content from the Sailor single player, be sure to subscribe so that you can stay up to date on the channel and when new videos are posted. Other than that, let's get into this game review of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So from the get-go, Assassin's Creed Valhalla is the latest installment from the Assassin's Creed franchise developed by Ubisoft. In the game, you'll play as Viking galore Eivor. Eivor and his group of villagers have set their sights on politically rocky England and strive to create a new settlement in the area of Mercia, right in the middle of England. It's your job to develop the settlement and create allies with the surrounding English and Norsemen as your people make their way in their new home. So just based off that summary alone, one wouldn't automatically think this is a staple Assassin's Creed game. If I sat down and automatically started playing the game without seeing the title screen or load menu, I would probably think this is just a Viking game. Nothing too special about that. But oddly enough, this is Assassin's Creed. I'm going to be honest and admit I don't know much about the Assassin's Creed universe. My first Assassin's Creed game was a 2018 Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and if you know anything about that game, it does the absolute bare minimum when it comes to context to the series and general foundation of the game. It felt like Valhalla was a little bit of a step up from Odyssey in that some of the characters do make an appearance in the game. There are more references to the Ancient Ones and their whole gig, and you do get to act more as an assassin and not just someone who's ready to throw down at a moment's notice. But that's about it. From the perspective of someone still fairly new to the franchise, it's just best not to ask questions about those modern people and why I haven't seen them again after 50 hours of gameplay. Not to say that the game is a bust because it refuses to acknowledge the franchise's past or what makes Assassin's Creed, Assassin's Creed. Given that this is my second Assassin's Creed game, I would say that Assassin's Creed as a whole is having a little bit of an identity crisis. In my perspective, it feels like the overarching game as a whole has outgrown its original plot and journey and wants to explore new territory, but the old gameplay is a bit of baggage and we're just not ready to let it go. Is the main plot to protect Earth from the Ancient Ones, or is it Eivor expanding his settlement and creating friends along the way? To me, Eivor and friends is the main plot of the game, and the Ancient Ones, again, is kind of just pushed to the side for folks who want to explore and dive 100 hours into the game to complete each world event, wealth token, and mushroom shrine. At the end of the day, though, I was still able to enjoy my game through, and I could follow the story for the most part. Valhalla's general story isn't one that's too difficult to follow, and I did enjoy going through the different territories and exploring the different terrain laid out in the map. From the snowy banks in Norway to marshy swamps in Grantbridgeshire, there's plenty to do and interact with in the world that will keep players engaged for hours on end. Now, on the flip side, I did find the general story to be a bit elementary. There's not much depth in terms of the characters and their driving forces, and at times it felt like I was watching a watered-down version of Dragonheart meets Game of Thrones, just without the dragons. Another thing that was a bit odd in the story were that my options for Eivor, in terms of dialogue, didn't always match up with the scenes that I would come across later on. Like, for the most part, I'd play Eivor as a simple character who enjoys helping folks out and for the most part would choose the noble or humble dialogue option when interacting with other characters. But on the flip side, you'd come across a major scene where the NPCs would accuse Eivor of certain behaviors and decisions that went against my actual gameplay. This might be a fault of my own because more often than not, when I'm given options in my character, they are most likely going to fall on the lawful good side compared to the chaotic evil side. No matter how hard I try, I just can't help but play the good guy. Am I the only one with this problem? Like I said earlier, the game is a fun one to dabble 30 or so hours into. The game is completely stuffed with collectibles, world events, or side quests, if that's what you want to call them, and fun kind of mini games. Speaking for myself, as a lightweight, I will always find joy in challenging Norse and English folks to a drinking contest just to stumble out of the gate victorious like the sad college partier I never grew up to be. I think the joy in the game itself has been going out and exploring the map and discovering the different characters and oddities littered throughout the map, some of which won't appear on your map until you approach them. Now, if you've done some searches on the interweb, Google will tell you that this game can easily fall into 100+ hours of gameplay. Luckily for me, I'm not a dedicated enough player to give the better part of my 2020 to a single game. Now is the time to spend countless hours staring at a screen, so I'm not going to limit myself to one game. Given the general mass of the game, I found the overarching gameplay kind of boring. Put simply, the main goal, as mentioned earlier, is to travel to different territories throughout the map and collect allies, much like Pokemon Go. Each different territory will have its own subplot and area you need to conquer, because that's the best way to make friends in this time. Once you've finished, you'll go back home to find the next ruler you need to dethrone, have a few drinks, and call it a day. Fun, right? Maybe for like 20 hours or so, but the main story truly starts to drag. There was a point where it felt like I hit the climactic point of the game and things were starting to settle down just to have things go about the way they were, and I found out that I really only hit the halfway point. From that moment on, the pacing really took a major dive, and it felt like the game was kind of searching for its own ending as I continued on to the next territory. Kind of wrapping up the general feeling of the game, and most of my opinions do come from the story and main campaign, a few things to kind of look out for is that given the size of the game, it's fairly glitchy. I understand that it is to be expected and no game is perfect, but there were legit moments where I would be playing and the game would just altogether crash. So I was playing on the PS4 Pro, and perhaps this is Sony's way of dropping hints to grab a new console, but I will not be sold that easily. I also found the farther I got into gameplay, the more I noticed the delays in controls as well. This can be a huge annoyance when you're in the middle of a boss battle or trying to make your way around a village and Eivor is stuck in a doorframe or sluggishly trying to pick up some arrows. Again, it didn't bother me so much in the beginning as it did the more I played and tried to push through the main story and wrap things up. Finally, this isn't so much a glitch and perhaps just design, but I found the stealth in towns and villages to be increasingly annoying. It's not so much the stealthing in enemy camps or anything like that, but to have to stealth in areas that Eivor would clearly be accepted in was very strange. Like, there's a point where you're literally in a Viking town and Eivor is still stealthing for some reason. It felt like the game would come up with whatever reason it possibly could to make Eivor an enemy of a city, village, or town, just so you have to slow your pace down and dredge through quest point to quest point. I'm probably missing a note or something early in the game that explains all the stealthing and why Eivor isn't accepted anywhere, but clearly I missed it or forgot. Who knows? Okay, so that's generally it for Assassin's Creed Valhalla. All in all, I'd give the game a meh. It's fairly enjoyable to play for 15 or 20 hours, but after that point, the quests do become a bit repetitive, and it felt like the story kind of lost itself along the way. The open world map and different territories within England are stunning to look at and explore and contain so many different trinkets and interesting characters, I could honestly see someone spending most of their time just exploring. Do I have high hopes for Assassin's Creed and what's next for the franchise? Yeah, I mean, I'll play whatever comes next, but I'm hoping Assassin's Creed has a more clear direction in story and makes a decision between continuing the Ancient Ones arc or scrap it and continue to make open world historical fictions. I'm okay with either, although I will need a SparkNotes recap of OG Assassin's Creed and how this all plays out. Thank you so much for tuning into my video and listening to rant for the last X amount of minutes. Let me know what your thoughts are on Assassin's Creed Valhalla in the comment box below. I think it's time to close the chapter on this game and move on to the next one. I'll give you a hint. It's probably the most hyped game over the last year. Thank you so much for checking out the video, and I will catch you guys next time for the next video. Bye!